Drake, Ironhand, rolled down the dusty small-town road with the slow, steady rhythm of a man who'd finally found a moment of peace. The late afternoon sun washed everything in a warm, golden haze, catching the chrome on his bike and sending soft flashes across the quiet storefronts. His engine rumbled low, echoing lazily through the empty street like a heartbeat at rest. He breathed easier here, far from noise and trouble, letting the silence settle around him. For a minute it felt like the world had paused just to let him breathe. Then, out of nowhere, frantic footsteps shattered the calm. Small, light, desperate. Drake straightened, instinct sharpening instantly. Because if you think you know where this is going, wait. Drake barely had time to process the footsteps before a little boy burst into the road, stumbling toward him with wild, terrified eyes. Dirt streaked his cheeks, tears cutting fresh lines through the dust. He skidded to a stop beside the massive bike, chest heaving, hands trembling. "Please, mister, he hurt my grandma!" The words cracked as they came out, small and shaking, cutting straight through Drake's calm like a blade. The contrast was almost surreal, this tiny child staring up at a man built like a wall. Drake killed the engine, swung a leg down, and knelt until they were eye level. His voice softened, losing every rough edge. "Slow down, buddy. Tell me what happened." The boy clutched his vest desperately. Drake felt his pulse shift, protective instincts roaring awake. "And you won't believe what happens later." Drake didn't waste a second. He scooped the boy up, settled him carefully on the seat in front of him, and felt the child's small hands clutch his jacket like a lifeline. The moment the engine roared back to life, the boy pointed down the road with shaking urgency, and Drake twisted the throttle hard. Wind tore past them, carrying dust and worry into the fading light as they cut through the quiet town like a warning shot. Drake tapped his radio with one steady hand. "Possible emergency, elderly woman injured, need backup." His voice held no doubt, no hesitation. On the other end came quick responses, men already gearing up. The Brotherhood moved fast when innocence was threatened. Drake leaned forward, heart steady, biker code burning in his chest. Protect the vulnerable, no questions asked. Time was running out. With the bike eating up the road beneath them, the boy's voice came in broken pieces, barely rising above the wind. He said his grandma had raised him since he was a baby, always keeping him safe, always telling him the world still had good people in it. His small fingers tightened on Drake's jacket as he added that the man who hurt her was supposed to be one of those good people. Everyone in town called him helpful, generous, the kind who donated to the church and shook hands at council meetings. But behind closed doors, the boy whispered. He changed. He pushed, he yelled, he threatened them whenever Grandma refused to sign something he wanted. Drake felt a cold certainty settle in his gut. Nothing about this sounded like a simple accident. The fear in the boy's voice, the shame in his pauses, told a deeper story. Something far darker waited ahead, and Drake prepared for the worst. Drake pulled up beside the small, weather-worn house, and the boy jumped off before the bike had fully settled. Inside, Grandma sat slumped in a chair, one hand pressed to her ribs, a dark bruise blooming across her cheek. She forced a shaky smile. "Please, don't make trouble," she whispered, eyes darting toward the door as if the walls themselves might betray her. Drake crouched beside her, voice steady and soft, promising they were just here to help. While speaking, his eyes swept the room. A broken vase glittered across the floor. A smashed chair leaned crookedly against the wall. Muddy boot prints tracked through the kitchen like a signature left by someone who didn't care, who saw. Drake took quiet photos, asked small, careful questions, watching her flinch at every memory. "Something about this doesn't add up," he muttered under his breath. And what bikers discovered next shocked everyone. Richard Hale arrived with the confidence of a man who believed the whole town bent around him. His spotless suit didn't belong anywhere near the dusty porch, yet he stepped inside like he owned the place, polishing his smile as if rehearsed. "I came as soon as I heard," he announced, eyes sliding to the bruise on Grandma's cheek. "Poor thing fell again." The lie was smooth, practiced, and Grandma shrank beneath it. Drake moved instantly, placing himself between them, blocking Hale's line of sight. Hale's expression flickered, irritation leaking through. "You people cause problems," he said quietly, a warning wrapped in silk. Drake didn't blink. "We fix 'em." Hale pulled out his phone, dialing the sheriff with confident ease, voice dripping with authority as he claimed everything was under control. Drake watched him manipulate every word, revealing just how deep his influence ran. The boy trembled behind Drake, and outrage simmered. When Hale stepped outside to take another call, Grandma motioned Drake closer with a trembling hand. Her voice dropped to a fragile whisper, each word carrying months of fear. She told him Hale wanted her land for a development deal the town hadn't even heard about yet, and when she refused to sign the papers, he kept pushing in front of her grandson. The last time, she said, he didn't just push, he shoved her hard enough to send her crashing to the floor. The boy had seen everything, frozen in the doorway. Drake felt the weight of her truth settle heavily in the room. He quietly tapped his phone, recording her confession, letting her speak without fear. Vulnerability slowly shifted into resolve as she finally told the real story. And inside Drake, justice rose like a storm preparing to break. Drake stepped onto the porch and radioed his club with a tone that left no room for doubt. Within minutes, the distant thunder of engines rolled through the quiet neighborhood, growing louder until 5 bikes pulled up in a tight formation. The men dismounted like a moving wall, leather and steel catching the fading light, intimidating to anyone with bad intentions and comforting to those who needed protection. They formed a protective ring around the house, silent but solid, their presence saying everything. One biker rested a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder, and the child clung to his vest as if it were the safest place in the world. "Nobody touches them again," one rider murmured. Another added, "Biker code, stand for the weak." Across the yard, Hale's confident mask slipped, panic creeping in as he realized his influence was finally crumbling. Hale returned sooner than anyone expected, his polished calm replaced by something colder. 2 hired thugs trailed behind him, broad-shouldered and eager, as if they'd been promised an easy job. "We're ending this," Hale muttered, stepping onto the yard. The bikers moved as one, a slow-motion wall of leather and purpose shifting forward. Tension tightened the air. Drake took a single step ahead of his brothers. "Last chance," he warned, voice low and steady. "Walk away." Hale's jaw clenched. He refused. The thugs lunged first, but the bikers handled them with controlled precision. No rage, no excess, just justice delivered with firm, decisive force. Within seconds, the men were restrained on the ground, curses dying in the dust. Drake pulled out his phone and played Grandma's whispered confession, her trembling voice filling the space. Hale froze as the truth exposed every lie. The sheriff arrived in the middle of the standoff, eyes widening as he heard the recording and saw the bruises. There was no room left for excuses. He snapped cuffs onto Hale's wrists. Justice landed hard, exactly where it belonged. The wail of the ambulance cut through the lingering tension as paramedics hurried inside to treat Grandma, speaking gently while wrapping her ribs and checking her bruises. The boy refused to leave Drake's side, gripping his vest with the same trust he'd shown from the first moment. The sheriff approached, hat in hand, shame written plainly across his face. He admitted he'd been blinded by Hale's reputation, fooled like everyone else, and thanked Drake for stepping in where the law had hesitated. Neighbors gathered along the fence line, murmuring as the truth finally settled over the town. Grandma's land was secured, her safety restored, and as the flashing lights softened, an emotional quiet filled the space, a moment to breathe after the storm. The next morning, with the sun just beginning to warm the cool air, the bikers prepared to ride out. Drake tightened his gloves when he heard quick footsteps behind him. The boy ran up, clutching a small folded paper, breathless but smiling for the first time. He pressed it into Drake's hand. Inside was a crayon drawing of Drake on his bike, angel wings spread wide as he shielded the boy and his grandma. Taped in the corner was a worn $5 bill. "This is for saving her," the boy said softly. Drake felt something crack open inside him. He knelt, handed the money back, and kept the drawing with quiet reverence. Drake fired up his bike, the boy's drawing tucked safely in his vest, like a new patch sewn into his code. As he rolled down the road with his brothers behind him, The town faded in his mirrors, but the promise he'd made there stayed firm in his chest. Justice didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered through crayon lines and a child's trust. And if you think this was the end, wait until you hear what happened the next time the bikers rode through that town. More stories coming soon. Their journey was far from over, and justice never sleeps.